Ragnar Lothbrok is probably the most famous Viking ever. He's the one who figured out how to sail from um, from their region over to England,
Okay.
and so his full name is Ragnarok.
Okay.
Right?
By the way, we're live. I probably should have said that, but
Yeah, you should have, but we're not.
no, we are now. Live stream is up. There's just nobody here yet, but there's a couple.
Oh, it did.
Yeah, it should be live. So there's, people are gonna start showing up now. Okay, finally I'm awake for one. Hello, Josh and Charlotte and LIKP. We got some people coming. There was a couple of people that had asked us in the comments like what time it was, and so I told them I should put it on the website. I just haven't had a chance. So hopefully everyone's gonna um will know that it's Monday because we're doing it at the same time every time. Hello, Rob and Gregory.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight, guys.
We're just gonna give it a couple of minutes here to see if we can get some more people in here before we start, the actual story part of it. But so now actually is a good time, Ryan, for you to tell me the rest of what you were saying about your dog. Ryan has a new dog, everybody. Let's clap for him.
Um, yeah. What was I saying? I was talking about the name.
Yeah.
Ragnarok is the Viking apocalypse,
Right, and
and
that's what I thought too when I heard the name.
yeah. So, but of course, I'm not going to call him Ragnarok. ALIKP, the lick,
And
the
Greenfelds. Yeah, I always
uh,
always when I'm reading that name too, I'm like, I get to the part of it, I'm just like the LIK, start. Anyway, go on with your story about the Vikings.
oh, so yeah, Ragnarok is too many syllables. I think dog name should be like two syllables, no more, or could confuse them. But
Really?
so I think well, it's just something that a convention that I've stuck to when I was picking out a name. So of course Ragnar is a good little abbreviation or shortening of Ragnarok, and it just turns out that Ragnar is a famous Viking from history. So
Well, that's awesome. So,
yeah,
for everybody that just came in, that I didn't say hello to, hello. This is Will and Ryan from Effed Up Stories. Um, yes, that is an Effed Up Stories T-shirt that I'm wearing. Charlotte, it's I actually wear it a lot because I don't have a lot of T-shirts. I got a lot of long sleeve black shirts. You wouldn't know I was goth, but I'm not. I
there we go.
just
Russell, LIKP.
okay,
His
Russell.
name's Russell.
I'll
It'll
try.
make it
I'll try to
easier.
remember. And we got Midwest. That's Hunter, right? Hunter, Midwestern Explorers, and Emma. Okay, we got a couple people here. I say we can start the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a live episode of Effed Up Stories. I am your host, Will Pender.
And I'm your co-host, Ryan Sharp.
No, you didn't miss anything, Emma. We're actually just starting right now. So tonight, I got a couple of new stories. Can you about out of my town so I can show people? I don't know what you tried to say there, but anyway, okay. So, greetings from Dallas, party time. Okay, so I do have a couple stories here that are brand new. Actually, I got them within the last week since we last did this show. I really want to drive that home to you guys. Is that whereas before it took some time to get to doing these user submitted stories. Right now, especially because of the live format, it's so convenient to just take these new stories and run with them right into the next show. So if you ever thought about submitting a story, now's the time to do it. I mean, we are going to go back to older ones as well, but as soon as they come in, I'm going to start trying to get them done. So you might remember the last time that we did the show last Monday, I had asked everybody if you had a story involving children and the paranormal, whether that was, your own children when you were a child or somebody that you know. And anyway, I did get a story. I hesitated and wondered if maybe I should hold on to it until I got a couple stories to do a theme-centric show, but I think I'm just gonna do it now. I do have a little tiny bit of a story of my own. Now I was mentioning last time that my own son, Isaac, this is how it started. Was that he was looking around the room and he was obviously watching something and following it and smiling at it and like not subtle, like I mean really like following it around, and that happened again. But here's the weird part. So I told Ryan this obviously happened in the last week. Now my wife told this to me, and what had happened was she had Isaac, and Isaac was he was actually in his car seat, and she had him because that's what we do sometimes. We put him in the car seat on the floor in the living room so that he can see us, because he's at that phase where like he needs to be a little bit of a distance to focus on you. So like we'll put him there so he's comfortable and he can watch you talk and stuff like that, right? So anyway, he was there, and she noticed that he was following something in a corner of the room, kind of where the TV was, and there's a lamp. And on the opposite side of the room from that is we have a very big, I guess, window to the front yard. And when she looked over there, she actually saw a white mass that he was what he was following with his eyes. She saw it only in a reflection, not when she looked in the corner, but when she looked into the window and saw the reflection, she saw this white mass go into the wall. And she, and I was at work at the time when this happened, and she texted me, and she was all freaked out. But here's the weird part, and this is the part that I was telling Ryan. It kind of got me, interested in it. But anyway, like anybody who's got an iPhone, like when you get a text, your screen just lights up, and it's got like your text is there, and then you hit your button and you go in and you're on your text or whatever. Well, I took my phone and the thing came up, and I pushed my home button, and then where the text would have been, like where I would have been able to click on it and enter my reply or whatever, the screen just went black. And I clicked it again, and it came up for a second, and then it went black. And I mean within half a second. And when I did it the third time, it went from, the text that she sent and the background, like the home screen with all the icons, and it basically strobed back and forth in a it was just like a strobe light, like back and forth. It was like flickering really fast. And then finally I was able to get in there and text it. And I just found it weird that it happened at the time when, my wife had noticed this, and at the time that she texted me. I've never ever had that glitch happen on any phone I've ever owned before, and especially my iPhone. My iPhone really hasn't glitched at all for me. So again,
I can't say I've ever heard of a glitch like that.
Right, and because the power went out on the screen like that, like almost instantaneously, like there's that thing with the ghosts and the electrical devices, right? Where they interfere with lights flickering and with and things
power
like
drain on batteries and
right. EMI. Do you mean electronic voice phenomenon? EVP, Hunter? But
EMI.
But anyway, that's basically what happened, and that was my little thing. And then when I was talking to my mother-in-law, she was talking about how my nephew, she babysits him a lot. His name's Jaron, and he used to have this phase, because I was telling her the story, right? And she would have him, and the same thing. He'd be and he's a bit older, so he'd be like lying on the couch and watching something up in the corner. And there's one particular time he was really smiley, and he was really happy, and then bang, something like he was instantly really upset and crying. So it's like whatever he was watching, done something, right? I mean, you don't just sit there and you're happy, and the next second you're like scared and crying. So yeah, that's I guess my little part of the story that I'm gonna use leading into the submitted story. And then we'll get to everybody here. So this story actually came from a woman named.
So just real quick, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but Josh has asked for a shout out to Tahlequah,
Josh,
Oklahoma.
Can you give a shout out to Josh? Tahlequah, Oklahoma, so I can show people. Okay, hello, Josh B. and Tahlequah, Oklahoma. I think that's how you pronounce it. Is it?
I'm sure we're probably both butchering the hell out of it.
But we tried. We tried.
Oh, and a shout out for Harambe.
and a shout out for Harambe. Okay.
Yeah.
So
so thanks again for everybody joining us. If you're just coming in, we're talking about some paranormal stories involving children. So what do we got first?
Well, I'm gonna.
Ryan's right. Aha! I nailed it.
This one time. No, I'm just joking.
Just one time.
So we're gonna.
Arkansas.
Well, fuck, man. That's a real. No, I'm just joking. You'll never let me live that down. You know, my family. Just as a quick little note, my family has this thing of fucking up words like that. I remember watching the show with and Mom was there one time, and this kid comes on and his name comes up, Nathaniel, and she goes, "Oh, Nathanel," right? I was like, "What, Nathanel?" And then my brother called Patricia Patrica, and what was it my sister did? Penelope from Penelope. So I mean, like me doing Arkansas, it just kind of makes sense.
Par for the course.
Par for the course. I mean, but the only difference is I knew what the word was. I just fucking read it stupid, but it's spelled stupid. Anyway. So we're gonna do the story by Naomi. Now she sent this, in the last week. And by the way, guys, I'm gonna copy and paste. There's some questions here. I'm gonna copy and paste these questions into a thing, and I'll get to them right after I tell this story. And if anybody got any questions, we'll do a short Q&A before we get to the next one. Oh, Brittany. Jeez, I better watch what I say. Brittany's like there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my. She's spying on me now. That's my wife, everybody. Spying on me. Okay. So this story comes from Naomi, and she sent it in the last week, and it's, basically an answer to my request for anybody who has stories with, kids who have experienced the paranormal. And so, okay, so she says, I asked this, and here's her story. So she has a son who's autistic, and he told her that he doesn't like it when she leaves him alone at night. And I would imagine that that's probably true for a lot of children, but there's a bit to this. So anyway, she asked him, why that was. And he continued a statement by saying that I always try to go with you, but I can't. He said, you get sucked away too fast. And you got to remember, like when a child is trying to explain, they're in their best way of trying to say it in a way that makes sense to them. So she asked, for more details, and he basically says that he wakes up, and when he wakes up, the bed is shaking, and it's moving, and his mother is being sucked up through the walls. And he swears that, to him, he thinks it's a huge vacuum cleaner that he can't see, right? And
that's creepy as fuck.
That's creepy as fuck because she goes through the walls, and it gets creepy.
I used to have that happen too. My bed used to shake when I was a kid.
My mom actually had that happen as well. So now this gets crazier. So we'll just keep going here. So
okay.
So he also told her that sometimes she gets dragged out of bed and into the hallway and through the walls, right, during the night. And he also told her that once he tried to chase her as she was being dragged in her sleep, but she was moving too fast. And he said that he waited for her and he cried in the hallway until eventually his older sister came and took him into her room to sleep. So, so far we got her getting, the poor kid has seen her get sucked through the ceiling, sucked through the walls, out into the hallway. He also told her that some stories that, where someone would actually wake him up at night and take him through the walls. And then they would talk to him and then return him to bed, and sometimes, taps him on the back of his head or neck, he said. He can't remember. So, it's almost, the way that she has it here is almost like, I guess that's how they put him to sleep. It's like a tap on the head or a tap on the back of the neck, and, to put him to sleep. So, anyway, he also says that the same ghost, or whatever it really is always present when she's taken at night. So, whether that's her getting sucked through the ceiling or through the walls, this same ghost that takes the kid is there with him while she's gone. Now, she also said that she has a daughter who is a young adult who has been seeing auras since she was a child and claims to see shadows and other beings that walk around and watch the family constantly. And sometimes they seem to communicate with each other, while, what she said, they communicate with each other while watching. She describes it as being like water beings from the movie Abyss. Now, you know what? I have that movie and I'm trying to picture it, but
I love that movie. So the water beings, they were, literally just comprised of water and was all amorphous and would, made this big pseudopod kind of.
I'm thinking of the movie Sphere, I think. But I feel like I saw that anyway. But yeah, so that's the closest, I guess, comparison that she can make to them. However, she said they are shaped like people and are somewhat transparent, I guess like a ghost. And she said if I so choose, I have her permission to share her story, and she enjoys watching the show and to take care. God bless. So that is the story from Naomi. So maybe let's do a little bit of talking.
The very first part with the waking up, the bed shaking, and because that I just from experience, that used to terrify the shit out of me when I was a kid. I'd wake up and the whole bed was vibrating up and down, and well, not up and down, but back and forth. But sometimes I did feel like I was moving up and down, that I was shaking in all all the cardinal directions there. And that really affected me for a long time. It really freaked me the fuck out. But to go on with the sucking her mom out of the bed.
That's the part that got me, right?
Walls, that's the image is just in my mind is striking.
Right, and it's for her child, how he explained it the best way that he could. I mean, that's a scary thing, man. Children, they're very honest because they're children. They haven't been corrupted yet, generally. And when they're scared, I mean, they're genuinely trying to, explain it so they can figure it out and feel safe or whatever. And so, he I guess, thought of it as a giant vacuum cleaner, because what else could suck something that way, right? But the fact that she went through the walls, that's different. I mean, that's a different, because it would have to alter our reality, right?
Well, and it's a phenomenon that's associated with the extraterrestrial phenomenon too. It's not the first. Of course, one of the ones I think of is Whitley Strieber. Now I don't know how familiar you are with his stuff.
I've seen some stuff, yeah.
Yeah. But he talked about the extraterrestrials hopping in and out of the walls. Um, and I know that there's been, quite a few abduction, regressive hypnosis stuff that, excuse me, where the people said that they went, they were lifted up out of bed and went through the wall, went through the ceiling. Um, if that's the case, if we just take those stories at face value, that represents a pretty significant level of technology.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, taking alien abduction into account, I mean, it would seem, especially
Because
for an
that I
advanced,
feel like that's what we're talking about, right?
yeah, for
That's
sure,
what the
for
story
sure,
is to me.
and like for an alien, I mean, I just don't picture them like sneaking in through your window and snatching your people, right? Nobody's gonna get that reference, but yeah, I don't picture
Oh,
that.
I'm sure some people will.
I don't. From what was his name? Antoine. Anyway, that was hilarious. But anyway,
Rob Mason made a good little point there.
what?
Question mark. Astral abductions,
Well, yeah, for sure. Like,
right?
if you think about an advanced alien race, I don't think that they're going to literally be Jimmy and locks and stuff like that to get in here. It's never the way it is. I mean, people report seeing a light usually, and then they don't remember much after. But I would say chances are they never leave their UFO. I would, well, in general anyway, it probably is a lot like how it was explained, some kind of technology that can target an individual and change their, I guess, the fact of being solid in this dimension and pull them out, right?
Or change the solidness of the wall.
Yeah, you know what it could be? You know, we did discuss before the possibility of life as a video game, of it being code, which, by the way, I forget the name of the scientist now. He's very, very well known, but he had just came to the conclusion, like,
Are you talking about Elon Musk?
no,
Okay, I was
he
going to
got
say
he got white
he's not
hair.
a scientist.
No, 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 he got.
Oh, Michio Kaku.
Yeah, yeah, and he said that basically he's come to the conclusion that, you know, he's found on what's the word? Basically, proof that we are in some kind, like there is a higher power, whether you want to call that God or what. But he said something of it like that everything is governed by it, kind of like how programs and stuff work, I guess.
Well, it was the proof that he talks about is the discovery that buried in the equations for sorry, my puppy just pissed on the floor. um, Based on the equations, or buried in the equations of string theory, or M theory, whatever you want to call it, appear this string of code, of coherent, readable code that was one of the earliest bits of computer programming that we ever came up with. And that exact code, and I mean, don't ask me to explain to you how exactly they discovered this, other than this, that it was buried in the equations. But anyways, this code is the one that checks for um, errors when you transmit a message from A to B. So because ones and zeros can be flipped easily in a program, if there's stray electrons around, zap, a one becomes a zero, zero becomes a one. So what this code does is it checks back and forth a couple of times to make sure that all the ones and zero, like the message that is received, is the message that was actually sent.
Checking for
So
parity or whatever.
yeah, exactly. And apparently that's literally present in the equations that we think might help explain our universe, and it being based on this idea of these superstrings. which are basically just two-dimensional bands of energy that are the basis of the very ground floor basis of our entire universe. That's what everything's made up of, is these little strings, according to this theory. And it appears that there's proof buried right in the equations that explain that theory, thusly equations that explain our universe.
So in essence, I guess, to make this really dumb and dirty for a lot of people, if we are in fact in a program like that, if that's what this is, then you could think of aliens and their technology as literally like, you remember the old game genies for Nintendo, where you could put
it's you're popping open the console and typing /
no
God
clipping
mode.
You're saying no clipping,
no clip.
right? And then you're just dragging the person through the thing because there's no clipping. Video gamers will get my reference.
It could be that, right? Like they could be in debug mode compared to, but it could also be that they are completely simulated, just like ourselves. That the actual reality of the universe is like the theory goes like this: is that there's a super advanced race of creatures, whether it's us or something else, doesn't matter. They build quantum computers that are able to model the entire universe accurately. And they let the program run, and like time is sped up in the program because it's a quantum supercomputer built by super intelligent aliens. So it perfectly models the universe, and inside that modeled universe arises a species that is smart enough to build a quantum computer in order to simulate the universe, right? And so it could be that aliens are just simulated entities like us.
For sure. We could all be sitting in a pod somewhere, just like the Matrix, just taking
I mean, that's one interpretation. Well, it's not an interpretation.
What are you doing?
Theory. I'm sorry, the dog. The dog is like grabbing tissues out of the garbage can, and that's why I have to keep him in the room with me, because if not, he'll howl and be a maniac.
Okay. Well,
yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize, everybody. My wife isn't home, and
I was like, man, it sounds like you're cooking dinner in there. Something, right? Like I'm just hearing bottles being moved and what sounds like plates.
I didn't even think for a second there. I was just like, oh no, he's eating tissue. I'm a dad now.
That's the best thing, Ryan, when they eat tissue, because it can wipe on the way out. Just like one full swoop, right? I mean, it's. Anyway,
he's a dog de Bordeaux or a French Mastiff.
He's a cute little guy. Ryan sent me some pictures, and if he had a webcam, he could show all of you.
Yeah, but which I will get.
So I'm just gonna hop back to a couple things that were said before we started this story. Okay, so we had, I'm just scrolling through it. Okay, so Murdoch asked, is anyone having nightmares regularly in my home? And I guess that's in reference to the thing that happened with my son Isaac. I almost never have nightmares, at least that I can remember. To me, I just find them interesting. Now, my wife was in this room. I don't know if she's still here, but I guess she could say if she had any nightmares. I don't think so, though. She usually tells me. It's almost always something like, I get up and she's all pissed off at me. And I'm like, what the hell, right? And she's like, yeah, I dreamt that you went off with this hussy or something like that. And, like, she's literally mad at me, like, giving me attitude and flicking stuff at me. It's like, man, I didn't even do it. But then, I kind of get it because I was pissed off at my brother forever when I dreamt that our family was getting takeout for Christmas, and he told Mom I want a black bear or something like that. And like, who the fuck wants black bear? I mean, can you even eat that shit? And I got really pissed off because there's nothing open. I was mad at him in real life, so I guess I kind of get it. So anyway, Not that I know of. I mean, I have seen Isaac. Sometimes when he's asleep, he'll start going, or kind of like he's having a bad dream. And I think, what could he be having a bad dream? Is he dreaming he's teething? Is he dreaming that he wants milk? Because like he doesn't know it yet, right? Really, right? He's not. He just doesn't know a lot about the world yet. So I don't
being a living being.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what he could have a nightmare about, but
being uncomfortable, being lonely.
Yeah, I guess. But man, like I gotta say, he's spoiled. He's always me or Brittany always got him. He's never really by himself. I mean, he's even got this fake cough now, right? If he wants your attention, he goes, right, and then you go over and he's all smiley. So, but so yeah, that's my answer there. Addy 1002, shout out to Adam, Ottawa, Ontario. So shout out to Adam in Ottawa, Ontario. Let's see, we have a.
Oh, if we start doing all the shout outs, we're going to be here for 4 hours.
Well, I just wanted to run back. So I got those done. Hang on now. I just did a bad thing. I did a bad thing, Ryan.
I'm not surprised.
You know what I did?
So astral abductions. So I've heard of this. Is the idea that you don't actually physically leave your bed. They somehow forcibly astrally project you, or they abduct your astral form. And I don't know how much stock I put into that, but I guess we're talking about extra dimensional beings. Who knows? Even extraterrestrials. Who knows?
It could even be for fun. I mean, if you were at the power, you could like push a button and send someone like going 10,000 miles an hour through a tube somewhere just to see the look on his face, or I mean, who wouldn't do it? I mean,
that idiot thought he was dead. What a jackass!
He came back. He shared a story.
I think it's scientific, almost certainly,
for sure.
Research related.
Okay, so I'm just gonna take a quick read here and then go through another story. Man, my mouse is fucked up. Does anyone else have a Mac when those fucking wireless fucking mouses? Oh my god, they're garbage. At least for me. All right. So what do we have here?
You were reading through your list. I
Right.
just jumped in there because you were having issues.
Right. So someone dreamt of snakes. Miguel Porras. When I was a child, I used to have nightmares constantly. Then my mom told me that when I started talking, one of my first
Miguel?
words. Yeah, Miguel. One of my first words were viveras, so snakes. I guess that's the translated thing. Brittany, Isaac isn't watching this, and you're not my mom. And I swear
Vivoras.
Well, I just remembered something that was totally off topic. I'm not going to go there, but it made me laugh a bit. Do I believe in dragons? No, not really.
I would love if dragons were real. I like to think that there has to be, if the many worlds theory is correct, and there's infinite number of parallel universes, that at least one of them has something like a dragon.
I know. There's a lot of like folklore stories from Japan involving dragons. Now,
the whole world. That's the weird thing about dragons, is that
Skyrim.
it's inherently implausible. The idea of these giant flying reptiles that can breathe fire. But it's everywhere. Every culture has a dragon.
That's who knows? Maybe in an alternate world somewhere, maybe there is dragons. Maybe there's something to it. But so we got a couple Skyrim fans here. That's awesome. Let me ask you this: since everybody's mentioning Skyrim, because Ryan and I love Skyrim, who played Morrowind? Because that was the fucking bee's knees, right? That was the Elder Scrolls. Now they had 2 games before that, but Morrowind was the one that it was just like wow, right? I mean, in fact, I would go as far as to say that some of these games, the Elder Scrolls, as much as I love them, I mean, I love Skyrim, but Oblivion dumbed down the Elder Scrolls a little bit more than Morrowind, and then Skyrim even more so. I mean, in Skyrim, everyone was a fucking magic person. Everyone had magic because you were Dragonborn, right?
Oh boy. Okay, I think we're a little off topic here.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna get into the story of now this one. Now take this because I just think that this person comes from a different language, right? So because I'm just picturing how people are going to take this name. She said her name is Petty, okay? So we're just going to leave it at that. It doesn't mean what you probably assume it to mean in English. And it's her nickname anyway. But anyway, so she's seen things from when she was a little girl up to the present. We're going to come back on the Pizzagate, Christopher. I was reading on that the other night. So anyway, she Petty has had these, she's been like a lot of us, seen some stuff growing up. And like one time about 9 or 10 years, when she was 9 or 10 years old, and, she grew up with all boys, and she was the only tomboy. She was a tomboy growing up with all boys in the family. And so she had these things happen. So anyway, on this particular day, they were playing in this vacant lot, which was across the alley from their house, when all of a sudden, and this story is pretty crazy, by the way, all of a sudden, while they're playing over there, they come upon this giant hole, okay? And, they played over here all the time, like every day. It was, you can imagine any place that you would play, whether it was a field, like us kids, we played in the field, playing hockey in the road, pissing off all the people driving up and down. But anyway, you'd notice something like that when it was at a place. So that's what they found. They found this hole, and it was very deep. And she said that when you looked into it, you could actually see what was down there. And what they saw, it was like a whole other planet or Earth. Because what they saw was another sun shining, tall, beautiful grass, and trees with flowers blossoming on them. So there she was. She had her little brother and her 2 nephews with her. And the brother and the 2 nephews decided to go down, right? She was the oldest. And, like the oldest always is, you can threaten your siblings. You go down there, I'll beat the crap out of you. And that's more or less what she was saying. She didn't want them to go down. She had tremendous fear of what was down there. But they ignored her. And she said, yeah, well, if you guys come back, I'm going to beat the crap out of you, kind of thing. And, she had this sense from the hole that something wasn't right. Well, obviously, because there's a whole different place down here. It's very unnatural. So anyway, when they got down there, she called out to her brother and asked, what they saw down there. And it was basically what she was seeing from up, not in the hole, which was the trees and basically like another Earth down there. But anyway, it was very beautiful, apparently. Nothing happened to them. And eventually they came back out. But what she doesn't understand is where the hole came from and why she was so afraid to go down there in the first place.
So when they looked down this hole, they seen the sky of another place?
No,
or it was
not
like
the
they
sky.
were looking out of a cave?
You know what? It sounded to me like you were looking from a different perspective. Like as if you were, well, I guess, yeah, if you were in a cave that was like maybe a little bit off the ground and you looked out of it and you saw the earth and stuff like that, that's what she saw. But it was like in the earth. It was a hole going down. This wasn't just in the woods somewhere. It's not like it was like a hole in the ground and it was a cave or whatever. This was a parking lot. Right? I mean, and the sun was shining down there. I mean, if there was a hole in the ground, there wouldn't be any natural light, especially. And the only light you would have is if there was like construction workers or somebody with a lantern or flashlights or something like that. So that's what they saw. It was, it's like this hole in a parking lot, a vacant parking lot, and down in it, a whole other world. Right? So, I don't know, I mean, that's a wacky story, right? And it's not the first one I heard of it. Honestly, I've heard other stories, similarly with I guess other worlds beyond a certain, you know.
Well, you know what it puts me in mind of? The Green Children of Woolpit.
Okay, well,
You
tell me.
remember? Okay, so if I remember correctly, the Green Children of Woolpit were like a brother and a sister that wandered into this little town. I think the town of Woolpit. It's in England somewhere. So the weird thing about these kids, though, was that they were green. They were very striking. Otherwise, they were perfectly normal. Um, and like the people took them in and tried to teach them to speak and stuff like that. And I think the little boy got sick and died, and the girl kind of assimilated into the culture. And the little girl eventually explained that they had come from this subterranean world, um, filled with people like them.
Okay.
And that was, yeah, I don't think there was much more of it than that, but a couple of green kids wander into town, and I mean, like, this was, in the 10th, 11th, or 12th century.
Okay. Um, by the way, something just came up in the comments that I do really feel like I want to give a shout out, because I never did it. Like, honestly, I've just been so busy and I forgot about it. But Disciple asked if, first he asked if we're going to have live guests again. And he said that, we should have the guy on who told the story of Leon's possession. So he's talking with Chad Hawkins, right? And Chad, you know what? He wrote a book a little while ago. And he actually based a couple characters off Ryan and I in it. And he sent me a copy of his book. I'm just going to go grab it so you guys can take a look at the cover. I just want to do a little piece on it. Ryan, you just talk for a minute.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. right away.
Okay. Get to it, Lackey. I'll be back in a minute. Yeah.
So for me, I guess the idea that these kids said that they came from a world in kind of the same way that the story is taking place. We got kids being lured by a strange hole or portal. It smacks of being very similar. I know we covered a story a little while back that was, I believe it was somebody driving in a vehicle. I don't know if we actually covered it or was something we just touched upon. And suddenly, they're driving down the road, and suddenly the scenery starts to change, and the trees and the vegetation start to become more and more jungle-like. And then they started seeing, these reptile-like people standing on the sides of the road. Yes, he is in his basement.
It's actually a rec room.
He's a basement dweller.
It's a rec room that I've turned. Well, it was a man cave, and then I turned it into a family room. So, 65-inch 4K TV, killer computer, games, iMac, speakers, guitars. Well, you can't see all that stuff over there, but yeah, it's a pretty kick-ass room.
Did you find what you were looking for?
I did. So I just wanted to mention this because I meant to do it sooner, and like honestly, my son came, and everything just got pushed back. But this book, I'm just gonna put this up here so you can see it. I'm just waiting for the stream to catch up here, or maybe I can use that real time. So this is Chad's book, Chad Hawkins. He's a guy that we had on the show. He did the Leon's Possessed story, and also I think it was Forever Chased by the Men in Black. I think was another one, right? So it's called Sacred Sanctum, Defender of the Dragons. It's by Chad Hawkins, And I didn't get to finish it, and it's only because, like I said, like everything kind of just came up. But what I read of it was really cool. Anyone who likes fantasy, like if you like Elder Scrolls and you like the idea of dragons and stuff like that, that's literally what the setting and the stuff that this book is about. I mean, he even thanks me right in the beginning here, which I thought was really, really cool. He thanks a bunch of people in the beginning. Totally didn't expect it, but it was so cool and nice of him to do. So if you guys like fantasy and that kind of setting and those kind of books, go give him a look. I mean, we had him on the show. Everybody liked his bit on the show. I mean, he wrote it really well. It's very well written. What I read. So it's called Sacred Sanctum, Defender of the Dragons. Go check it out. I'm sure that you could probably Google it and find it. So yeah, that's Chad Hawkins. Since he was brought up, and you know what? We actually did. I was gonna have him on the show after I finished reading it, and we do some kind of paranormal topic that maybe tied into something. But like I said, once my son came, everything just kind of got, I guess, jumbled and sidetracked and stuff like that. So yeah, that. Now I'm just gonna scroll up here and see what we had from some other people while I was gone. Man, there's a lot of stuff. It's a little bit hard to keep up with you guys.
So, something I've seen pop up several times, and I don't know how much we want to get into it, but Pizzagate.
Right. Okay. So, like, I'll admit right now that I never did a whole lot of looking into it. I've only read a little bit, but like it was mentioned, it does come around. It's Storyteller. It's called Sacred Sanctum, Defender of the Dragons. So anyway, it Pizzagate, again, like it was a pedophile ring, but I believe that, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat here, guys, because like I'm sure that you guys are more up on this than I am, but I believe that there was some of the stuff that was discovered in emails that were found that Hillary had deleted or something like that. And
yeah, I think the majority of them were Podesta.
Right, and like he got basically protected and stuff like that from this whole thing. But yeah, I mean, there's a whole
and there's talks of both Bill and Hillary
being part of it. Yeah.
Well, not just being part of it, but also attending this pedophile island owned by this billionaire who apparently has like a whole harem of children. I don't know. It's fucked up.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to go right here and just say this. For that topic in particular, I don't think that we should do that because we'll probably disappear. Like, I'm not even joking. I think we're going to skip over that. And if you guys want to go and do your own looking on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that we're not covering because it's not important.
We don't want to disappear.
Well, that, and I mean the allegations. See, a lot of this conspiracy stuff involves, wild, brutal accusations against real people who have real money and real power. And with all the UFO researchers and other researchers and whistleblowers that have been suicided or found dead, I think it's safe to say that it's not something we want to really get into. But
no,
I would say anybody who just go check it out yourself.
Yeah, the truth is, I mean, I'm not talking about that anymore, but just a note on, I guess, media in general. Basically, this election in the U.S. was really interesting because all the media that was bought and owned by the government that went a certain way didn't work this time. It didn't work, right?
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting point.
It's always worked. Like, the government owns the media. They own TV. So, like, forever, everybody have been, we've been in, you're force-fed what you watch on TV. You don't have a choice. What comes on TV is what you watch. What comes on in your newspaper, you watch. And then this beautiful thing came along called the internet. And now, all of a sudden, people can go and do their own research. They can go and find their own stuff. And
look at the immediate reaction to it. There's this sudden attack on alternative media.
There is. Like, I mean, I can't remember what I was reading now. But, man, like, there's stuff. Even
Obama came right out and said, yeah, people got to stop reading, news sites that aren't basically CNN and MSNBC and that kind of stuff. If it's not mainstream media, it's garbage, it's bunk.
Right.
And
right.
It's making everybody stupid.
And everybody saw through it this time. And I think that's like the most important, the most enlightening part of it. Of the whole election that I saw is that, a whole ton of people saw through it and made their own decisions and did their own research. So, there's a lot to be said for fake news and stuff like that, especially these days. I mean, there's websites that are literally put together by bots, bots that go and they scan the internet, and they're smart enough to put together, a coherent article that isn't necessarily true. They load it up with ads. They make their money. And you know what? While I'm here talking about websites, fuck every website that has a list of 10 things or whatever where you got to click next to go to the next page. Not only is it really fucking irritating to the user, but do you know why they do that? Because they got ads on every single page. So instead of looking at one page and getting 10 ad views, now you got 10 pages and 100 ad views, and that's what the salespeople sell to the people buying ad space. They're saying, oh, but look at our numbers. Yeah, it's fucking times 10 for every article because you bastards put every little piece of information on a different page.
Like clickbait garbage.
It's garbage. So anyway, yeah, that shit really irritates me, especially as a web developer, right? Because, so
there's a lot of real interesting comments and questions. Russell, was it?
Are you going somewhere? Somewhere?
I lost it. Sorry, I lost where the. Anyway, there's. Okay, so here's another one. Greenfelds, what's your opinion on exorcism and the church ways of not helping the vast majority of people oppressed by demons?
I think it's disgusting. Actually, it almost seems like, in part, it's because they don't want, to be involved with an image of a certain thing that comes up. It's almost like they don't want, the public view of themselves involved with that stuff, because a lot of people, I guess, think it's hokum. You got a couple of real good one-liners today. The bee's knees and hokum. Yeah, man.
Fucking Sheldon Cooper.
If only I was that smart.
Yeah. I guess there's a couple of lines of thought on that, and if you just want to go with the most pragmatic of them, the church basically tries to divorce itself, get itself so far away from the demonic possession issue, because it's like you said, it's bad for the image, but it can also result in embarrassing lawsuits, especially if in a world where people don't believe in demonic possession, if a child dies because
they were involved at all, like even if it wasn't their fault.
Yeah,
right?
The priest was just there, and he was blessing her, But the idea, people have such an ugly image in their mind of what an exorcism entails, and rightfully so. It's not a pretty thing.
Well, the interesting thing about exorcisms is a lot of people, especially like if you only seen the mainstream movies like The Exorcist or whatever. Exorcisms don't generally happen as a one oh, I'm going to go get exercise now, and then you're done. You're gone home. They usually happen multiple times over a series of months, and it doesn't always work, right? I mean, sometimes it's enough to calm it down for a little while, but it's repeat it ad nauseum till they finally get it, if they get it. And a lot of people actually die during an exorcism. That's a thing that I don't think a lot of people realize, because like when you show it in the movie, they always get saved, right?
Yeah.
But that don't always happen. I mean, sometimes they either get fevers that are like raging, and all kinds of different shit. They're violent, like they rip at themselves. They can like break their own necks. Like it's just crazy the stuff that actually happens during these things. If you actually go on YouTube, man, there's actually some what looks to be legitimate exorcism videos,
footage. Yeah.
And it's scary, man. It's
so
truly...
the I guess the other point, it could be that, or they just want to, for legal reasons, stay away for legal reasons. But there's another line of thought on it, that the Catholic Church in particular has been, thoroughly infiltrated by Satanists, and that they've corrupted the church from the inside out and used their influence to allow these kinds of things to happen unchecked.
When you break it right down, especially today, that's always been true of the church. We've even had stories of people who have gone to the church for help and, were turned away for whatever reason. And I don't think that it should ever happen, by the way. Because that's the whole point of a church. It's like, it should be the one place that you can turn to, really. But I think in today's day and age, because everybody is so... fuck, I've read of lawsuits where, like, somebody broke into somebody's house and broke their foot and sued the guy's house that they broke into and won. Right? What kind of a fucking world is that? How is a judge allowed to sit on a bench and make, judgments like that? Or, like, somebody gets caught with an ounce of weed, gets, like, 5 to 10 years in jail. And then this other fucking guy rapes and kills 2 or 3 women. Like
it's
6 months. 6 months. Yeah. Like it's
the fucking hacker. Oh, that's what pisses me off. The hacker that hacked those guys' email or Facebook or whatever the fuck he hacked. They got the photos that proved that they had done this thing. He got way more time than the actual rapists.
See, that's
I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was 15 years.
Well, I'll tell you this, Ryan. Like, whenever I read the news, especially... Because let's face it, legal shit don't generally make the news unless it's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And every time I read it, it actually makes me mad. Like, when I read that stuff, like, there was this kid in university. He was a rich kid. His father owned, like, really rich. And there was some woman or some, the university student who was passed out behind a dumpster or something like that. And he raped her. He got nothing for that. And it was like... Yeah, well, his father said something to court like, I don't think he should, be punished for his whole life for something that took 20 minutes. It's like, really? Like, that's this woman's life. Her life is, like, upside down. Like, that's going to be something...
That was disgusting, hey?
It's absolutely disgusting. And, like,
it just goes to show you the amount of privilege that guy feels.
And that is the reason why reading that stuff in the news makes me sick. If you're a judge and you make a call like that, you should go to jail. The judge should go to jail because that's criminal. But anyway, like, we're totally off topic of paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
Now, this is more of a grind my gears kind of a segment. But yeah, that kind of stuff happens all the time. The world's very unfair. That's why I try to lose myself in video games. Like, at least in there, when it's not fair, I can be part of the problem and not,
So Zachariah Furlong said that the Catholic Church has just expanded exorcists and let the demonology organization join due to so many new possessions. I'm not sure what that means, but if that means anything to anybody, apparently they've...
Well, I guess what he's saying is that if there's more people being possessed today, now they're opening doors to get more people in there for it, right? I wonder. I mean, one little case that I'm just going to touch on it now. It could be a later episode, something that Ryan and I talked about before that was really interesting. But do you guys remember when there was this guy, and he was found, like, he had a homeless guy. He was the main guy was completely naked, and he was like eating the face of this homeless guy. And the cops showed up, and they were like, drop him, get down, put your hands behind your head or whatever. And he didn't. So they shot him, and he didn't even flinch. He looked back, and then he looked back to what he was doing and continued eating the face of this guy. And they had to kill him, right? Yeah, they thought it was bath salts, but they actually did tests on him. They didn't find that at all. What they did find, the only thing that they found in him was that I think he had smoked marijuana, but it wasn't fresh.
Like the day before,
yeah,
or something like that.
And it's not like marijuana doesn't do that to somebody, right? But here's the thing that was really, really crazy. Like, everybody heard about that story, but when I went on the internet, I found a thread somewhere that had linked like a dozen different cases like that, where a dozen different cases where somebody was like that, eating somebody, and had like unnatural strength and everything like that. And so we were going to do a podcast at some point, like real life zombies, if we could find enough material, but then we just didn't. We didn't end up doing it, but that's out there if you can still find it. In fact, that's something that happens to a lot of stuff that Ryan and I want to do a topic on. It's like, oh yeah,
I actually, in preparation for that, I gave it some thought, and I came up with a a theory of my own as to what this is. So I think it was in the 70s, there was a scientist discovered this really bizarre, different kind of infection known as a prion disease. And it's not a virus, it's not a bacteria, it's like a bundle of proteins that somehow interact with the proteins in your brain tissue, and it fucking tangles them all up. And it literally creates holes in your brain. And I believe it was called kuru kuru. And they discovered it in Papua New Guinea, in this tribe that practiced a ritual form of cannibalism where they would eat the brains of their honored dead. So the higher up the totem pole you were, the more likely your brain was going to be eaten. And people who fucking acted crazy were supposed to be in touch with the spirit world, and they were revered above all. So this kuru kuru was spreading through the population like fucking wildfire. So he apparently went and took these proteins, these prions, and started injecting them into animals in the United States. Like, took it back to the United States and started injecting all kinds of animals. And they weren't like, some of them were like free ranged and just tracked so that they could let it live in the wild like normal. But there's people who believe that this brought the prion disease to North America, and it's now spread through everything, even including us. So it would be human spongiform encephalopathy. It's like the one that you'd be more familiar with is bovine spongiform encephalopathy, and that's mad cow disease. So what we're talking about is like mad human disease. And the scary thing about the prions is the prion disease is that you can't discover it until you do a necropsy, right? Until you cut their brain open and look, and it's like, holy shit, this thing's riddled with holes. And I believe personally that it's something like that. It's like this prion disease. In fact, they think that a lot of cases of dementia are misdiagnosed mad human disease.
Well, it's interesting about that. I mean, every time you think about something that we look at as like a Hollywood staple, like zombies or whatever, when you put it like that, like if you figure it out, like let's say it was prion disease or whatever, and there's a real thing like that, suddenly it doesn't seem so fictional, like, or you know what I mean? But like, what if all these different things like ghosts and aliens and parallel worlds? I mean, I actually do think that in a scientific way, at some point, we're going to figure all that shit out. And then once we get beyond this planet, we're just going to discover more. Or maybe even from this planet. Once you discover another dimension, perhaps beyond that, there will be another one and another one. But, I think that there's this, as you always say, Ryan, as above, so below.
Yeah.
Right? Now, there was
the old Hermetic principle.
The old Hermetic principle. Now, there was a question a little ways back that Vicky Farr asked, Will, do you think being possessed and having a personality disorder could be connected in some way? Personality disorders and stuff like that is something that, not that I have a personality disorder, but I do have depression and anxiety. And I could see how far-reaching that can be. So I totally think there's two different scenarios, right? I do think that depending on your psychological profile, who you are, and your upbringing, your surroundings, and stuff like that, could make you vulnerable, maybe, for something like that. But not necessarily everybody who has these like, I don't think every possession case is necessarily someone possessed by demons. I totally think that there are people that could have personality disorders or mental issues that could almost mimic the same kind of thing, like would make somebody manic. That can totally happen. But I do think that there are legitimate cases too, because there's certain symptoms that are different, like being able to speak in several voices at once, or speaking in tongues, or knowing things that you shouldn't know.
Glossolalia,
yeah. Like, where you get your terminology, it's like you took a dictionary, just like crammed it in your brain somewhere, right?
That's a great word. First time I ever read that, it just stuck with me. Speaking in tongues.
Yeah, and yet I can't remember my own name sometimes. So, but
well, we all have our strengths.
We do. So, like, I think that you have two scenarios, right? There are people who are definitely mentally ill, and that's all there is. Like, that's their whole thing. And I do think that there are people who are possessed, and it's legitimate there. I think that it doesn't even have to be a personality disorder, but I think that certain personality types and stuff like that you could be more vulnerable to certain things, in the same way that like a larger person could possibly be more vulnerable to like heart attacks than someone who doesn't have to carry the weight around or whatever, right? But yeah, I guess that's where I go with that. See what else we got here in the comments here. He probably could, Hunter. He probably could recite it. But if he does, I'm leaving, because it's going to be really boring.
Yeah, no doubt.
Let's see. Schizos are open to think to let demons take over.
So did you have another story loaded up?
I don't have one loaded, but I mean, I can grab one. She got another question here. What do I think about automatic writing? Do you think that people get willfully possessed? You know what? There are people who are willfully possessed, but they don't even realize it, because just the act of doing that, saying, okay, I'm going to get here, here's my pen, and spirit enter my body. That is what that is. That's willfully possessing you. But also, I mean, that could similarly happen to using something as simple as a Ouija board, because just by the act of using that and putting your fingers on the planchette, you're saying, okay, spirit, you have my permission to move my hand.
Possess my hands.
Possess my hand. And like, that it's not just going to be your hands, right? So like, there's a lot of different ways that it happens. And some people even give permission in dreams. They don't even realize it. Like they could.
Yeah, we covered a story like that not too long ago.
Yeah, so like, it's really it's one of those things, man. Like, I think people need to be. It's interesting, right? Like, the vampire thing. You can't come into somebody's house without permission. Permission is something that's permeated all through this stuff, isn't it? Like,
it really is.
So it comes back to, like, if you look at the Bible, or like what they say are the words of God and stuff like that. Like, you have to, God gives you free will, right? You have your free will to do stuff like this, but at the same time, it's almost like that doesn't work that way for other entities. It's like you have to give permission. They can't just go and screw with you. They don't have the free will to screw with you, and that's where we get back to this whole idea that I come to, where, the world, Earth, is God's petri dish, right? And that's why, like, when people are possessed or they're haunted or whatever, a lot of people claim that if they pray or they call to God, or if a priest comes to your house and he does an exorcism and he's using the word of God and stuff like that, and that's how they drive it out. Well, they know the demon's name, but that's all a part of it. It's like there's this unspoken rule, or there's this agreement between God and the devil that this is God's petri dish, and you're not allowed to come over it unless they give permission, right? It's almost like that's a loophole in there somewhere. Like, there's fine print, unless they give permission. And so, in the sneakiest of ways, they try to get that permission. So, that's it's a little a tidbit of information that I thought of sometimes that I wonder about, right? It makes me, like, honestly, like, I'm not saying I wouldn't jump on a Ouija board, as stupid as I know that is, just because I'm so fascinated with the paranormal. But Ryan I know would, but I'm more cautious about that stuff now. I'm a lot more.
You're a family man.
I'm a family man, but even since doing the show, we've had certain things happen, and we're not directly involved with this stuff. I mean, some of the stuff is just. I'll give you guys an example, so you guys can just get an idea, I guess, right? So, you like this stuff, right? So somebody emails you and says, okay, I'm going to do some kind of ritual for you guys, or for you, and it'll bring you good luck or something like that. So maybe you'll humor them, right? If you got like a podcast like Ryan and I, and you'll say, okay, go ahead, we appreciate it. And then something really crazy happens to you. What would you think? Because that's the kind of thing that has actually happened to Ryan and I. We've had little stuff like that where big things happened, and totally, I don't take things as light. Even stuff like through an email or something like that, you think, how could that ever be, right? But I don't take anything light anymore, because the strangest things have happened since we've started.
Well, I think the scariest was with your mom.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now, I've told this story a lot, but when we did our show with Jason Haxton, and of course anybody who that was with the Dybbuk box, and there was this I guess notion that Jason had told me about, that anybody who had talked to anybody who had used or like was at all close to the Dybbuk box, not even in person, but like even if they were talking to somebody who owned a box, or had any like
disrespecting it or something like that,
anything like that, you could have these problems that would happen to you. And some of that would be like a stroke or heart problems or whatever. And my mom's a joker like me, right? And anyway, when I told her I was doing an interview with Jason Haxton, I told her what it was. She joked about it, like, oh yeah, blah blah blah, I'm cracking jokes at it for a couple days before it happened. But the night that we went to do the damn thing, or the night before, I can't remember which, she had to be rushed to the hospital because her heart went into atrial fibrillation. And anyway, she's had that since then. I mean, that's, in a timeline since we started doing the show, that's a major part of her life now. She's been back and forth to specialists in like a different province since, pretty much yearly since that started, and that happened, like I said, the night of or the day before our interview with Jason Haxton. She don't laugh at it anymore, by the way, but she don't believe in any of that shit. You know, like, again, it doesn't really matter if you believe in it. Sometimes just being involved at all, that's all it takes.
Having free will isn't the same thing as being, you know, free of the obligations that come with some of the decisions we make, right? Is not free of punishment. You know, you're free to make the choice, but who knows what'll happen.
Yeah, actually, Hunter mentioned something there about binging on drugs and alcohol. That you know, I just want to make a note on that too. I don't know how true it is, but it is said that if you get really into that stuff, I mean, we all have some kind of a vice, right? And Ryan's like, well, only a little, right? It's like Ryan's like surrounded by drug paraphernalia, and anyway,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway, if you do this stuff, it is said, especially like the heavier user that you are, the heavier of a user that you are, it can make you more vulnerable, we'll say, to like drugs and stuff like that. And I thought about this before because I talked to some people who had you know, had apparently been possessed or had demonic oppression and stuff like that, and oftentimes they were, well, at least on a couple occasions, they were people who had been heavy users of either drugs or alcohol. And I tried to think of what the connection really would be, right? Because I mean, it's just a substance. It's just something you put in your body, and I don't think it's like chemical. Like, you know, it makes you inebriated or something like that. And now you're more vulnerable. I don't think it's like that at all. It's not like trying to get a girl to sleep with you, right? Not that I would ever do that. But anyway, what I think it is, I think, like, you know, if you do like a lot of anyone who's a heavy user, except for weed, because let's face it, weed's not really, it shouldn't even be a drug. I mean, they are legalizing it because, you know, I mean, there's benefits to weed, but there are a lot of drugs that are not like that, right? And heavy users of certain drugs are very depressed or very angry. You know, it kind of takes over their life. And I think that's what it has to do with. I think the more depressed you are, so it doesn't even have to be drugs, right? That's just, it can go hand in hand. But I think that if you get very depressed or whatever, you're more vulnerable. I really think that that's the key because it's negative energy, right? It's all about negative energy. Negative energy.
And more off, well, I think in almost every case, real bad addiction does ultimately lead to very bad depression.
Right. So, like, you know, it's all about that energy that we keep calling back. You know what I feel like? I feel like the guy in Happy Gilmore. He's all about the energy. Black to bad. It's a circle. It's good energy. I just watched that the other day.
So I think there's a question here from Ahmed Malik. You think theories, and I think this is for you, Will. You think theories like the quantum zero effect on some degree help make an argument for the existence of a higher governorship?
Wait, what? Can you say that again?
You think the theories like the quantum zero effect on some degree help make an argument for the existence of a higher governorship?
Well, can you first explain to me what that theory is?
I'm not exactly sure. I think is the idea that you can freeze a particle to a perfect stop. And I'm not sure. I think that's what it is, but I'm not sure what the implications of that are. I'm not read up on my quantum zero effect. I see him posted. This is the second time he posted, so I wanted to touch on it, but that's not a theory that I know a whole lot about. You're talking about that the theory would be an argument for the existence of God, I guess is what he's saying there.
I just know I just forgot my name. Man, I just.
Okay.
I
Well,
should.
let's move on then.
All right. I've actually been sick all week, so my brain is only functioning at quarter capacity anyway. I don't even need any drugs or alcohol. I'm lucky I can keep my eyes open at this point. Let's see. Ryan is the guy you hire when you need to do some Batman stuff. That's pretty good. Well, I know when I need a Batman, I just put a Ryan sign up there. You know, in fact, my light was just a giant beard.
Yeah, it's just a giant silhouette of a magnificent beard.
Yeah, a magnificent beard. I gotta tell you, that's where Ryan hides all of his stuff, is in his beard. Isn't that true, Ryan?
Again, I don't have any idea what you're talking about.
Remember when you were a bouncer and that guy was like, "I'll give you $20 to get in that club."
Okay,
and he took the money.
Let's move on here.
And he didn't move, and he was like, "Well, let me in." He's like, "What?" It's like, "I just gave you $20. What money?" It's in your beard, you crazy idiot. Anyway, I'm tired. Go on. Oh God. All right. How about we do we do one more the beard. Oh fuck. What is the beard? Ryan, are you reading the comments?
No, I wasn't.
What's the beard of holding?
I have no idea.
All right.
Oh yeah, like D&D, bag of holding.
All right.
Extra dimensional space.
All right.
Okay, so are we going to touch on another story here, or?
Well, let me take a quick look. I don't know if I got one right out.
We've been going for about an hour and a half. What do you think, guys? Do you want us to do one more story and then wrap it up for the night?
Gotta see if I got one here. Well, I know I got them, but like I never. Okay, I got a small one. I don't know what is in it, so we're just gonna do it on the fly and see. Hopefully, it doesn't need a lot of editing like before. All right. Hang on now. I'm just making paragraphs so I don't get lost. All right, guys. So this one came in from Carmelo. Came in April 27th. So, you know, that's quite a while ago. All right. He says, I really don't know how to tell the story, but I'll try my best. So, when he was 10 years old, one summer night, his parents were sleeping and he was awoken by what seemed to be a humming sound. He came down from his bunk bed. He was sharing the bunk bed with his brother. And he proceeded to walk into a long hallway which led to his living room. And he turned his attention to the window in his living room. And all of a sudden there was this bright light that was illuminating from the window. And this happened as he walked up to the window to approach the light. He was in complete utter awe as he fixed his eyes on this silver object that he saw outside. And he said it shined and it gleamed with so much shine that he became startled and very fearful. He said the object was 30 to 40 feet away from the window, and he could actually see inside the craft. And inside of it, he observed 4 creatures or entities. He said they were whitish gray in appearance. And the inside of the craft looked a lot like a surgery room. He said it had departments, as you could see the back area and the front area. He said the back of the craft had what looked to be like a surgery bed, and it was placed on a certain angle, kind of like in a sitting position. You know, he said the color appeared as light purple. So I guess if you could picture a dentist chair, you know, a sitting position. And he said he could see that there was a lot of movement as the creatures moved at different patterns around the ship. He said the back of the ship had an ejection door like the one you would see in the movies where you would, you know, you'd open it sideways. And he said he stood there in almost like a trance-like state, just in complete shock and fear. He said he fixed his eyes on the creature that was controlling the ship, and he was wearing a purple cape. And as he looks back now, he realized that the purple signifies majesty or high rank of some sort. He said his eyes were big and were oval-shaped. He said he could see how it controlled the ship, as every detail in the ship was clear and detailed. He said it used its hands to move the object around in any direction it pleased to go, and it would go. And at this point, he said he was shaking, and he remembers his dad having a camera in his closet, so he remembers his dad showing how to use it and stuff like that. So he ran to the closet, frantically grabbed the camera, and he ran to the window and pointed it outside towards the object. And as soon as he did so, he said the creatures in the ship pointed at him. He said he pointed their long fingers in his direction, and a huge light turned on from the top of the ship, and he said the light blasted in his direction. And he said all he saw was a white flash. And the next thing he remembers is the morning sun shining in, waking up in his bunk bed, and his mother and father tapping on him to wake him up and ask him why he was, sleeping in the living room last night. And he had no answer, just fear, because he was afraid that his parents would think he was crazy. And he said to this day, he hides the story from the public, and he was haunted by these beings for most of his childhood. He can't explain anything that he saw or experienced, and finally he's sharing it today. And he said he would love to share more of his experiences with us someday. So he said, please take the story serious, as everything written is 100% true and something very personal to him. And so, sounds like he was abducted. Well, if not abducted, he was definitely, the light knocked him out in his living room.
How old was he when he had this experience?
He said he was 9 or 10.
9 or 10.
Yep.
Wow.
Right. So,
Well, that's a very, it's a very vivid recounting. But I guess if you experience something like that, you didn't get your mind erased, I guess it would leave a pretty indelible mark on you.
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, I find it interesting that they could do it with light, But I also found it interesting that aliens. I mean, they do, right? They come down and we see them, but it's almost like they're surprised that someone could see them. It's like, wait, I thought I was invisible down here. Someone send that light at him and knock him out. It's like, well, if you're in his front yard and you're shining like a couple thousand megawatts of light, then there's a chance someone's going to see you, right? But maybe they think it's okay to do 3 a.m. I don't know. But that's a pretty messed up story. And of course we have that the surgery room, right? How many alien stories have we heard? Geez, man, almost all of them have like a surgery table or something on it where they're like doing experiments on people and stuff like that.
Some kind of operating room of sorts. Now, people have trouble with how how crazy some of these stories get, and one of the things that I keep seeing pop up regarding alien abductions is that there's a pretty large group of people now that have come out and said that their abductions weren't performed by extraterrestrials. It was human beings, and that somehow they're able to create these altered memories that is attempting to plant this cover over what actually happened. And that they claim in some cases that the people who are speaking and that they're dealing with are American, or sometimes I've read a couple, I think 2 stories now that talk about them being Russian.
Okay.
So, if that's the case, if that's a thing that actually happens, then perhaps there's a scenario where these outlandish, very difficult to believe memories are put in there just to, well, we got to step it up. People are getting too used to the regular story. We got to step it up a little bit and keep the rest of the world thinking they're crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So any memory you have of a craft or having some kind of a operation performed on you, and of course some people think that it's connected to the secret space program idea.
For sure. So that being said, I just looked at the time, and I gotta get up early for work in the morning. But thanks everybody for coming out. I'm really digging this whole live back and forth thing where we can interact with you and all that stuff. And I think Christina just came here. Hello, Christina.
Oh.
We're just cluing up.
But don't worry, it'll be uploaded pretty quick.
Yeah, it'll probably take it'll be processed, I'm sure, within an hour and be online. And next Monday, of course, we'll be doing the same thing, same time. It's 5:30 p.m. PST time. That's our new thing. So if anybody's got, like I said, if you got a paranormal story or whatever, I mean, you could probably see by now, especially since the last 3 or 4 we've done. We're burning through these things pretty quickly. So the more stories we get, the better. I mean, we do have a bunch on the site that we got to cover too, but we will cover them. Probably if you submit one week, it'll probably get into next week's podcast or the one after that. So yeah, we're getting through them pretty quick. So anyways, guys, thanks for coming out and hang out with us around the online campfire, and we'll catch you next Monday.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.